Hello there, fellow loom knitters. Today, we're going to take a look at lifelines, also known as waste yarn. We're going to take a closer look at the tools needed to create a lifeline, why and when we actually use the lifelines, as well as how to put them in and take them out. And of course, we'll also have a few tips and tricks along the way, because that's just what I'm about, trying to level everybody up, including myself. So let's get started, shall we? So as far as the tools are concerned to create a lifeline, there are only two. You need a yarn needle, and they come in various shapes and sizes. All of them have very large eyes so that you can thread your needle with the yarn. Some of them have a plastic hole so that you can get your yarn through. That's my personal favorite. Another one could have an angled tip because that'll go along the pegs nicely as well. They also come in plastic, and in a pinch you could use a bobby pin if you can't find a yarn needle. Just a little tip right there. As far as the actual waste yarn, because that's the other tool you need to create a lifeline, is waste yarn, scrap yarn, whatever you want to call it, I would highly suggest something that is thinner than the project that you're currently using. So, I mean, if you're using a medium weight yarn, I would try and find something in lace weight. Ideally, another thing you could use for waste yarn is dental floss, because dental floss is waxed, or at least most of it is waxed, and of course it's very strong, very thin, because it's got to go between your teeth, so that's an option for scrap yarn. Any project you'll do except something that's pretty much the same color as dental floss, so you want to stay away from there because you would like something in a contrasting color so you can see it later on. Another thing too with dental floss or the mercerized cotton is that it's slippery. And if you're dealing with a mohair, especially a kid mohair that's got a serious halo on it, you want something that's going to go smoothly in your live loops. So just a couple of tips there. The when and the why that we put in lifelines, those reasons are often intertwined and used together. So the when is when you're transitioning from one part of your pattern to the other. So if you're going from a collar to a yoke or a sleeve to a cuff, that's when I would put in a lifeline so that it would make a marker of when I'm transitioning from one section of the pattern to the next section. Another time I would put in a lifeline is once I'm doing a 10 or a 15 row repeat. If I'm confident with what I've just done, I would put in a lifeline for the dividing line. Because the why is if you have to frog it and rip it back out, then you know where your last confidence in the pattern repeat was. You know where you divided your sleeves, and that way you can go back to the sleeve separation and continue from there. You know before you started the decrease, this is where you were. It's a perfect marker, and why I call it a lifeline, because it means you don't have to go all the way back. You can just go part of the way back. The how-to is best described on the loom. So I'm going to show you how to put the lifeline in and then how to take it back out. Let's take a look.
So as you can see, I've already captured a few of the stitches along the loom. And notice how I'm going from the bottom up. Using my yarn needle, I start at the bottom of the stitch and worm it in and up towards. Because I found when I was going down, from the top down, all my spare yarn was getting caught in the pegs, and it was really quite a hindrance. So now I start from the bottom and work my way up. It's a significantly more effective way of capturing the live stitches. So once I've captured all of the stitches, I'm going to remove the yarn needle. I no longer need that. And I'm going to remove for this example anyway, I'm going to remove the stitches from the loom. Now notice how the loops are still quite loose and the lifeline is threaded right through each and every loop that I've captured. These stitches are still quite alive and viable. The lifeline will make it significantly easier for me to recapture them on the loom because this lifeline is keeping them all secure and open, viable. So by separating the yarn from the loom, it does free up the loom for other projects. But if you know you're going to be putting this piece of yarn down for a bit, I strongly recommend that you add a tag with all the pertinent details for this piece of yarn, which loom you used, where you are in the project, what's next on the project. So keep track of all of that. So when we reattach, be aware of the right side of the material. It actually goes underneath and pops out under the loom so that it's facing you. But when you're working the material, the wrong side is up. It's important that we actually reattach all of those stitches the right way. Otherwise, you've got the material flipped around and you'll be knitting the wrong way and you're going to have to just do the whole thing over. And nobody's got time for that. So as you work the stitches back onto the pegs, you'll notice that the lifeline actually assists with opening up each and every stitch, and it helps put the stitches back on the pegs. Now sometimes they'll go tight and you have to be a little bit more patient when opening them up again because it takes a little bit more time putting them back onto the pegs. But not to worry, the stitch is still viable because of the lifeline. So once you've replaced all of the stitches back onto the loom and you've made sure you haven't missed any, you can remove your waste yarn. And you can do this a couple of ways. You can stick the pick in between a couple of pegs, secure and hold down the lifeline with one finger and pull with the other, or just pull on one end all the way through. Whatever you're comfortable with, doesn't really matter. It's going to get you to the same place.
Lifelines. Not complicated, worth the time to do because it's one of those things that you'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. Lifelines. Today we looked at the tools needed to put them in. Not many. We also looked at the when and the why we use lifelines. Pretty obvious. And of course, the how to put them in. So that was pretty easy too. And we threw in a couple of tips and tricks along the way just to smooth things out. So if you found this video helpful, then please like and subscribe and turn on those notifications too so that next time you'll be notified of when the next video comes out full of more tips and tricks and techniques. Because together, this is where we level up, right here. So until next time, I'm Stacey from Stitches by Stacey, and I'm hoping that you deliberately learn something new and have the confidence to implement what you've learned. Thanks for watching.